Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Today we're reviewing... Can you tell me what this says?
There's an eye there. There's definitely at least one eye, but the's two other dots.
It clearly says Al Rashid. What's wrong with you people?
Yeah, that's it. Al Rashid.
Al Rashid is a game in which you are trying to become a great merchant, working your way up in the favor of the Caliph.
That's a better title. I like that. Great merchant working to become...
Yeah, okay. Pretty bad font here in the box. But wait, there's more. Let me show you. Before we get to the board of this game, we want to take a look at the pieces of the game. Each player is going to start with a couple of these pieces. You have a Pasha, that's your leader. You have a Sage, and you have a Merchant and you have a Sage. A Merchant's worth 1, a Sage is worth 3, and a Pasha is worth 5. And so players are going to be taking turns in turn order, placing these guys in one of the regions on the board or up here in one of the areas on the court. And so when you put someone in a spot, you put them as far left as you possibly can. And you're only allowed to have one merchant or one Pasha in an area. However, you can stack sages if you have them underneath someone. So now I have a value of 4. And the values matter because when you do an area, whoever has the highest value gets to go first. If there's a tie, we go to the person who goes to the left. And so players are going to take turns putting these out. So I have 4 there, but you put out a Pasha, you have a 5. And maybe later on, if I have multiple Pashas, I could stack them underneath, which, is possible. So why do you go to these areas? After everyone's done putting them out, again, in turn order, players are going to resolve the areas on the board. But what you will do is you will pick an area to resolve, whether or not you're there or not in turn order. So you can resolve these areas out here on the main board first, or you can resolve up here. It's up to you. When you resolve these areas out in the main board, they're going to be giving players resources. Now, players are going to be paying special attention to this chart right here. This shows you, this is the money of the game. If you have one resource of any type, it's worth 1 gold. If you have 2 different resources, they're worth 3 different resources, 6, all the way down to 5, all 5 different resources, they are worth 15. Okay, so going to these areas down here is going to give you resources. So let's say I'm over here and at the Spice Road here, and I have the highest number thing there. I have my Pasha there. And you happen to have this here, and the blue player has one of these here. So when that happens, each of those players is going to get something. So we see who has dominance, and it would be green because he has the biggest piece there. He can either take all of one kind or 3 of his choice. Player 2 can take 2 of the leftover ones, and the third player can take 1 of the leftover ones. You can also take this item here, which will give you a discount when you're buying up in the rooms near the palace. Now, before you do this though, there is a possibility that there will be mercenary tiles, both land and sea, on these spots. If there are mercenary tiles that are there, you must discard mercenary tiles yourself. If you discard any mercenary tiles to fight these guys that are equal to or lower, fine, nothing happens, but you don't get anything either. If you don't discard anything, you just run away, you will take some cowardice tokens, which are -2 victory points, and that's a really big deal. If you can beat them though, discard mercenary tiles that are higher than these numbers, then these tiles will go away and you can go back to whatever you want. So you have to take a look at what's out on the board. So that's how these areas are done. You can say each area has a different mix of resources on the board. Then up here in these areas, in these guilds up here, if you have a person up in these guilds, you will be able to take 1 of 2 actions. You'll be able to take 2 of 3 actions. There's a special secondary action, which is a real cheap action. Like here I can pay 2 to take one of these. here I can pay nothing to look around on the board and you know, basically use spy maneuvers. But you must do one of the two main actions. The two main actions, one of them shown on the board, the other is buying a tile up there. So if you are forced to take one of these actions because someone else picks it, that area to resolve, before you've gotten any money, then, and you cannot take one of those two main actions, then once again you have to take one of these -2 chips, which can be very annoying. The different actions are pretty easy. This spy lets you look around the board and look at the different tokens, maybe move tokens. The military is important because that's how you get more military tokens so that you can fight against the mercenaries that come across your travels. These three areas will give you more of the sages, the merchants, and the pashas. So those are important to get multiples of those. And then the palace will determine a new turn order and also give you a resource of your choice. Also, don't forget that when you go to each of these spots, you have the opportunity to buy tiles there. Each of these tiles has a price and gives you a special ability, which is really hard to read here. For example, this guy, merchants at Pashas, cost 3 less gold for you. Some of these, you put them in front of you and they stay there for the rest of the game. Others of them you can use once per turn, and some are one-time use only. Some of them give victory points and so on. So you'll go through, once all the areas are cleared, you will draw a card, which basically tells you where to put out more mercenaries all over the board in the different spots. It'll tell you which cities have more mercenaries gain, and you keep going. At the end of the game, over 5 turns, at the end of the game, you're going to count up points. Many of these tiles provide points. Each Pasha, Sage, and Merchant are worth points, and they're not worth minor points, so getting those is a big deal. And then there are a few things that will give you +1 point tokens over the game, and of course you need to counter in all these -2s that you've gotten, and whoever has the most points is the winner. I suspect we're going to disagree on the thoughts of this game.
You suspect correctly.
But before we do that, I think we can all agree that the production was abysmal. I mean, I don't think the production was bad, but the fonts. Oh my goodness, the fonts!
Can you type any smaller on the cards?
If you can make the print bigger, you should do so. It doesn't need to stay small on every card. They're really hard. You were constantly picking it up to read them. The rule book was atrocious. It was a bear to get through. The gameplay itself wasn't that complicated, although it's very different than other games. So, like for example, worker placement, you know, usually we resolve things in certain orders, while this game, you could pick something to resolve even if you weren't part of it.
Right.
And that's, I think, unique to this game. I don't know that I've ever seen that in a game before. And there was fighting in this game between the workers, which is in some other games. Like I said that I thought this game felt very similar to Lancaster because you fought with workers in that game. Although in Lancaster, you replaced someone else's worker. Here, they both stayed there. It was almost like area control mixed with worker placement. Now, I think this is a pretty fun game. And I'll tell you why I like it. I like it because there's a good deal of interaction in it. Because of that, putting workers down, trying to block other people, and because you could really mess somebody over in this game. If you try, you know, you pick an area where they have to pay money, and they haven't got the money yet, I think that you can really mess someone over. That's one of the things I really like, that interaction. And another thing I like about the game is I like the money system. Getting different goods and trading them in for different amounts of money, I thought was a pretty cool thing. If there's one thing I'm not a big fan of the game, it's that I felt like there was too few points to go around, and so at the end you can have a final term where you go, oh, there's nothing I can really do.
Right. And
I hate games that I hate when a game kind of has an anticlimactic ending to it, and I thought this one did. The penultimate term was very important in my first game, and I didn't even realize how important it was.
Penultimate, that was good. I like that.
Points for vocabulary!
He probably looked it up today.
No, I did not.
Interaction. I guess I'll start there. Look, beating somebody else with a stick is also interacting with that person, but it's not fun.
Actually,
this game
that would be more fun than interaction.
It's kind of like beating one another with sticks. Yes, it's interactive. You should not engage in it. Okay, it is not fun.
Okay, but in any war game, you are beating the other person over the head with a stick, essentially.
No, I'm not. I don't mean figuratively. I mean literally beating somebody with a stick is better.
All right.
The game is just devoid of fun, and for me, had zero originality. Well, except for the font, but that's not a plus.
You don't think that being able to resolve an area, even if you weren't in it? I've never seen that in the game before.
I don't know if I've never seen it. It adds not enough. It doesn't matter. I could care less.
Even if it isn't, even if it is a new thing, I think it's going out of the way to provide interaction where it doesn't need to be interaction. Why should you be able to score someplace that you're not even a part of? That doesn't even make sense to me.
Okay, I agree that doesn't make thematic sense at all. Unless you can say by intrigue, I forced you to go before the king.
I like that.
Well, the game is...
I'm making a game right now.
The game is more mechanical than it is thematic. I won't argue that. I just thought that the mechanics were strong in this one. I felt that it was a little bit different than other games. I don't think it's a fantastic game. And if it was published as is, I can't recommend you buying this version of it. Simply because the rules are that bad and the font is that annoying. I think there's almost like user dysfunction there.
Yeah.
But if they made a nice version of it, if you like mean Euro games, that's what I would call this, a mean Euro game. I think that's who this category is for.
And I'm right there with you when it comes to that. Again, you're right. As far as this edition, if it gets reprinted, I would wait for that. It might not, and if you think it's going to run dry, get it. If you know you like worker placement games, you know you like them with teeth, then yes, you might like this. Go out and get it. If you've played any worker placement game,
I knew you were going to say that.
then you even mildly disliked, you don't need this one. Because you've already played so many better ones that it won't make a dent. This has to be one of the top 3 worst worker placement games I've ever played. And I've played a few. They're not my favorite genre, but there's great ones. There's fun ones. And this is one of the worst. Because it adds nothing new. As soon as I opened the box and laid out the pieces and started to learn the game, I felt I'd played it. Which is a weird feeling.
Yeah.
As soon as I started to see it, I'm like, wait. I feel like I've been here already. I mean, it's like Leonardo da Vinci. It's like all these other worker placement games. It's the same stuff. It's mush. It's all just again.
Tom said that he liked the money, the currency.
Yeah, I like that. The different goods.
I hated it.
Really?
Unnecessary complexity. Because you had to...
It shows that diversity brings you money.
Okay, I guess. I would rather that bit of complexity be thrown out of the game and say, I got $25 for going here, for this place, sending my guy to do whatever he's doing, trading for spices or cloth or whatever it is, and he's bringing me back $25, rather than having to say, okay, I got this, this, and this, and if I had those 3 single things together, then I have, $15, $20, whatever it is. That extra complexity of having to collect sets of goods was an annoyance to me at best.
Fair enough.
I'll tell you what it's not is original or fun.
I mean,
it's yet another pyramid. Like, oh, 1 is 1, the second one is 2, the third one is 3. Again. And it's, it just doesn't add anything. And you're probably right. That could have been simplified. But you could say that about a lot of things, in the game. A lot of moving parts in this game. Again, I think there's people out there who will enjoy the game. And if it sounds like you like what we're talking about, the worker placement, the going at each other, the being able to say, we're going to score here because you're going to waste your resources there before we score here where I want you to be out of resources. If you like that, go for it. But there's so many better games.
Alright, well, what's your thumbs?
This is 2 destroyed castles way down.
There aren't any castles in this game.
What? 2 dead camels beaten.
Not only are they dead, they're beaten.
It's like beating a dead horse, but it counts. Come on.
I'm going to give this 2 bloody flogged.
This is getting gross.
Oh!
This is
2
getting
bloody flogged court jesters down.
Oh, not the old.
Okay. Well,
Mean.
see, I should have just brought one of these guys on this one. All right, but I'm going to give this 1 thumb up. I feel beat down here, but the fact of the matter is, I think, other than the production quality, I think this just comes down to personal opinion, really. I mean, even if you guys dislike it, you saw how excited some of the other guys were about it. They liked it because they were Euro gamers, and this is their style game.
I tell you
well,
what,
again, I mean, you're the one representing that group right here. I would
But
say,
I'm not even that big of a Euro gamer.
You're still not that excited.
I was asleep at the wheel for half of this game,
Well,
and I think I still came in 3rd place.
Okay, well,
And when you can do that, when you can literally be a non-existent player and just go through the motions and still come in top 3, top 4 maybe, in a 6-player game, come on.
okay, well, there you have it. I've been outnumbered here, but I think some of you will like it. Just wait for the 2nd edition.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.